Hello everyone, my name is Dejaniro, and in today's video we're going to be making a Megatron redesign. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to do the whole YouTube thingies, like, comment, subscribe, and everything. Let's go! So here we are, part 2 of the Optimus video. This is obviously the Megatron video, so let's talk about it. This particular redesign was pretty tough, because how do you redesign someone who is so iconic and recognizable? Everyone who knows even the smallest amounts of Transformers knows 3 characters: Optimus Prime, Megatron, and Bumblebee. And redesigning this character is pretty tough. So I went with the mindset that, like Optimus, I wanted to create this character to feel like Megatron, but feel mine, mixing elements from things that have worked in the past and make something wholly original and unique to me that people would still recognize. To specifically point out the things that inspired me will be very hard, since everything inspired me, as I've been around Transformers media for a really long time. But here are the main things. The head sculpt took most of the inspiration from Transformers Prime and the IDW continuity. The spikiness of the shoulders also comes from Prime, but mostly it's my own thing. The forearms also kinda come from Prime. The torso is mostly original, but it's also very G1 inspired. I just added geometry. The face itself is just G1, some scarring from Prime, some elements from IDW. I don't think I've seen the biceps or the thighs anywhere else, so I feel comfortable saying that they're just straight up me. The hands are also Prime. The gun is based on the Evergreen and Cyberverse design. The bottom of the legs is just an updated G1 aesthetic with some extra parts by me. The back of the legs are the tracks that Megatron uses as a tank. I know I didn't come up with this idea, but I don't remember where I first saw it. And finally, the cape. The cape is more tracks that Megatron uses as a tank, which I first saw in this concept art, and I instantly just fell in love with it. Oh yeah, and the mace. The mace has been Megatron's melee weapon since G1, so I just made it my own, and yeah. The coloring, the color placement, is based on this fan art I saw. And here's the funny thing, I thought it was so cool, but I was confused by the changes to the armor and plating until I found this picture from Transformers Animated, and then it hit me. It's just Prime Megatron edited to look like the version from Transformers Animated. And since I really like that color distribution, I decided to adapt it to my piece. Of course, I added my own little elements here and there on the coloring aspect of it, but yeah, the main color positioning is just Transformers Animated inspired. This piece was really good and really stressful to make, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you like the lore. So let's talk some lore, baby. Now known as Megatron, Mikhailo was born into the miner caste, and they were raised by a gentle and kind-hearted miner called Terminus. Terminus thoroughly believed that it is better to be a pacifist ready for war than a warmonger with no concept of peace. As they grew up, Mikhailo became a relatively good miner, along with his longtime friend Orion Pax. I know I'm changing it, but I really like this idea, and also, it's not the main continuity, so I feel like change is pretty good as long as I disclose that it's an alternate universe. Multiverse. His early years were happy, non-combative, but empty. Mikhailo wanted to be an author, but was destined to be a miner. And this creativity, mixed with longing, gave birth to an incredible mind that needed to express itself. And everyone knows that the enemy of order is chaos, and creativity is just unbridled, beautiful chaos. One day, as the miners were doing their jobs, what amounts to Cybertronian law enforcement went to the mines to make sure no one was behaving out of line. Having been an abusive bunch, the cops started mercilessly beating on some miners. Mikhailo wanted to protect his friend Orion, who was in the crosshairs of one of the cops, Makaro wanted to protect his friend Orion, who was in the crosshairs of one of the cops, and Orion was desperately trying to help people get away from the commotion. But the guardian of Makaro, Terminus, took the beating that awaited Makaro. This, among other things, made Makaro want to change the whole system and how it fundamentally behaved towards the lower castes. And just about castes overall. He wanted to destroy the system and rebuild it without the ability of anyone being able to have the power the council used to. Orion Pax agreed, but felt that there were ways that could be considered that didn't involve that much violence or killing. Megatron and Orion always engaged in debate over this, but it was friendly. At the end of the day, they both wanted change, and that was enough. Over the years, an old bot became known as the sponsor to the miners. This bot was the keeper of the Iacon Hall of Records, Alpha Trion. Having been a prime from the original 13, Alpha Trion had seen Cybertron go from a golden age to an oppressive and slave-ran planet. Having been fed up with this treatment and having amassed a wealth unparalleled, he secretly started sponsoring miners who Alpha Trion could afford to secretly move out of their castes. The sponsor, over the years, befriended Makaro, Orion Pax, Terminus, and Orion Pax's guardian, a character I have not come up with yet. Alpha Trion wanted to take both of the young bots and give them both a shot at changing the world like they always said. You see, Alpha Trion, since he was a prime, he had a prime related power, which was some sort of foresight, and they could tell that Makaro and Orion would definitely change the world. So Alpha Trion wanted to take both Makaro and Orion out of there and just feed them the knowledge in the Iacon Hall of Records so that they could succeed as revolutionaries. After the death of Orion's guardians, Terminus took it upon themselves to make sure Orion was safe and secure. At some point after that, Alpha Trion, Terminus, Orion, and Makaro had a conversation, and it was decided that Orion would go with Alpha Trion first because he technically had no legal guardian. So it'd be easier to just say he was lost or something. They all equally understood. And Alpha Trion told Makaro that he had already made a choice for who to sponsor in the next year, and it was Makaro. Orion and Makaro enjoyed their last days together. Their heartfelt goodbye was at the top of an abandoned building they would frequent together close to the mines. The day after that, Orion left to become a records keeper in the Iacon Hall of Records. Throughout the next year, law enforcement picked up about the patterns that Alpha Trion was leaving behind by trying to help people out of the mines. And this led to Makaro never being able to leave. Stuff got real bad. Law enforcement started killing miners for sport, and Alpha Trion was not able to sponsor Makaro or anyone for that matter. At this point, Makaro and Orion are basically the equivalent of 12-year-olds, so their emotions are pretty heightened when it comes to almost everything. So at this point, Makaro is a bit angry at Orion for having been able to leave, but nothing that Makaro can't understand is beyond their control. Years passed, and Orion and Makaro kept in touch through meeting up at the building and private comm lines. They loved each other, and they were constantly trying to find a way to get Makaro out of the mines. Time passed, and at some point, law enforcement became so aggressive that they badly injured Terminus. At this point, Makaro was the equivalent of an Earth 20-year-old, and their anger had reached its peak. While the law enforcement beat on Terminus, Makaro got so angry and so emotional that their eyes became red, and so did the lights around their body. Makaro killed a couple of law enforcement bots, and after they were done, all Makaro could do was scream in agony and disappointment in themselves. Makaro looked around, and a revolt had started thanks to them, but all Makaro could see was Terminus' face of horror. Makaro fled the scene after seeing their guardian's face of horror and went to the abandoned building. Here they contacted Orion Pax and told him everything. Orion told Makaro to lay low and keep out of trouble. Time passed and Makaro was homeless, something outlawed in Cybertron because if you were homeless, it meant you left your caste, and therefore, you were a criminal. Makaro then joined the illegal gladiator arenas and slowly lost touch with Orion, as they thought Orion was partly to blame for the situation in the mines. In the gladiator pits, Makaro had met others that had escaped their castes and were outlaws. some who had seen Mikhailo kill the officers before, and they thought that because of this incident, the Mikhailo was one of the strongest spots they've ever seen. From here, everything goes as expected. Mikhailo fights and fights, takes over the gladiator pits and becomes more and more violent, and eventually they learn of the primes, and the one prime who defied all, Megatronus, and takes that name. At some point, the crowds call Megatronus Megatron, and they accept it as it was a name given to them by the people. And so, Megatron, the Gladiator King, is born. Let me know what you guys think of the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, there's a lot more than I want to tell with Megatron, but there's only so much footage I can use, and I didn't want to make this video like an hour long. If you guys are all interested in a part 2 of just Megatron, let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to elaborate on their gladiator days and how Megatron became the Megatron strong enough to wage war against Optimus Prime. If I was to make a second part, if I see enough people asking for a second part, I would love to, rather than do just another like character art, to do maybe like a scene. I'm not very good at that, but I would like to practice, and you guys know that a lot of my videos are me just experimenting. So yeah, let me know what you want, and let me know if I should make a part 2. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.